if you're struggling with debt, then I believe this is going to be your turning point, because I have brought you a specialist. Once again, I have my brother Roy Okonji to now dissect for us how to come out of debt, because he was once there. This is someone who was given a trophy for being the greatest, whichever way you can, whichever adjective you can give it, the greatest, the most powerful debtor or borrower of the season, that is by the Shylocks. This is someone who at some point borrowed from more than 86 people at the same time, and pressure was coming from left, right, center. I hosted him before and he talked about salary, and many people got delivered from certain mindset. My brother Roy Okonji, thank you so much for once again coming to the Inspiration Hub. Now this is where we dissect wisdom and learn from various aspects of life.
Thank you for having me.
How are you doing, sir?
I'm fine. Good to see you.
Good to see you, sir.
Yes.
Wow, we'll talk about the books, because I can see right now you have 7 books.
We thank God.
4 of them written on money.
Yes.
While 3 on personal development.
Yes.
Talk to us, sir. You are given a trophy.
Yes. I pride myself as being the only, perhaps, award-winning borrower this side.
Award-winning borrower?
Yes. This side of the universe.
Yes.
I hold a very expensive trophy that I was given by one of my Shylocks for being the most trustworthy borrower and for continued business. If you know who Shylocks are and how they do their business,
I know them.
I leave it up to you to imagine who is this Shylock in their right frame of mind would sit down and decide to use business money to buy someone a very expensive trophy in recognition. So I leave it to you to imagine how much business I had done with them.
I can imagine.
But it was a messed up thing. It was a messed up thing. Yeah, so that is where I'm coming from. If you see me very passionate about money conversations, about debt, it's because of what I have witnessed myself, even before what I've seen others going through in my work life and even my current consulting and coaching life. Yes.
Now, tell me, how did you find yourself into this kind of debt? Where were you working? What were you doing? And how did you find yourself in debt?
I'm a former banker.
Yes.
And I found myself in debt the way anyone can. I like saying getting trapped in debt is usually a very seamless journey. You don't feel it until it begins to bite, right? So a young man was employed in one of our big banks some years back. And just like it happens in every workplace, people will not teach you how to use money. So when I was getting employed, the closest HR came to telling me something about money was when they told me that after confirmation, you know, you go into probation, then confirmation. So they told me after confirmation, you will qualify for a loan. Now I don't know a loan for what, but at least my mind is already getting set for a loan.
For a loan,
yes. Now, after confirmation, I did not disappoint. I borrowed every amount I qualified that time. And I did what many people do. After you get the money, then you ask yourself, what do I do with this money? And that's a serious blunder in the world of money. And of course, I did a few things for myself, bought a few suits to look like what society expected of a young banker. Did a few things for my parents, and in 4 days the money was finished.
In 4 days?
Yes, the money was finished.
And you invested nothing?
Nothing.
You chewed it?
Now, what I didn't know is that I had signed my first ticket to financial struggle. 30 days down the line, deduction started. So when they deducted the first installment, I felt the shock. That's when I realized, oh, looks like the remaining amount is not enough to take me from end month to end month. But I was quickly reminded that in the next few months, you will qualify for a car loan. Nothing interests a young man like the thought of driving their own car. In this tiny town, where the town has about 20 vehicles, the thought that you'll be the one to bring the 21st car, latest registration in this town, crowded my mind. The thought of the necks that will be breaking to see who is this new entrant, crowded my mind. And I was looking forward to it. And without even thinking about my financial situation, when that time came, I also did not disappoint. At 7 p.m. on the 24th of July, that year, I landed with the latest registration. I was feeling like they should just allow me to hoot for everyone to know that the latest registration has landed.
And of course, pull the windows down so
yes, they can see who this is.
Content is yes.
And I felt nice. It is true, necks broke. I was talk of town for a long time, and it was a good thing. 30 days down the line, the second deduction has loaded. Yes. So now I have 2 deductions.
Yes.
Now it is clear the remaining amount is not fit to carry me from end month to end month.
It's obvious.
If you ask me if I needed this car, that time, I did not. You know why? I was living exactly 2 minutes walking distance from the office. 2 minutes. Not running.
2 minutes distance.
Walking distance from the office. What was the use of this car? I'm sharing this because usually sometimes I just share this story and you pick your flaws, someone picks whatever it is, and we move on.
Yes.
When I was buying this car, I didn't think about fuel, I didn't think about service, I didn't think about a lot of things that are associated with owning a car. So now here I have a car. Deductions have started. It is clear that the money that is remaining cannot take me from end month to end month. So that's when I started doing what many people do in offices, borrowing from a colleague here and another here until salary comes, then you repay.
Yes.
Then I also discovered almost all my colleagues were operating on the same budget curve. Chances were high when I was broke, they were also very broke.
Those are broke. Yes.
Those ones of you go to someone to narrate to them your issue, and then you finish, they tell you, "Kaa sasa usikie yangu."
Now settle down.
Yes, and they give you their story until you wish you can lend them money. Yet you're the one who went for money.
Yes,
that became the story, and that's how I got that's how I got introduced to Shylock borrowing.
Yes.
And I started borrowing small amounts to just cover me for the remaining of the month. But it became a perpetual thing. Every month I pay, I borrow, and the amount I'm borrowing is now growing. Because if you borrow 10,000 and you repay as 12, for example, next time you must borrow at least 12. Now many borrowers will tell you they give money in multiples of 5, so they can only give you 15. So you borrow 15, so next time you pay something close to 18,000 thereabout, and like that. If you do that consistently, in a classroom setting, I usually help people calculate and see. I have told people it is possible to owe people millions when you've never touched one solid million. Okay, because of the bit by bit.
The bit by bit,
with which is growing. So that's how I started my journey with Shylocks. And I did it religiously, month in, month out. Year in, year out.
Yes.
So they're moving from one Shylock to another Shylock to another Shylock. They started becoming multiples of them. Fast forward, after a few transfers, some promotions in between, I found myself in Nairobi. Now you can imagine if I was struggling in a rural town where you can easily borrow or ask a neighbor to pluck sukuma wiki for you from their garden. How much more struggle awaited me in this city?
It was massive.
So when I landed here, my borrowing intensified. Because everything blew out of proportion. I was living in a house of 5,000. I got here, there were no houses for 5,000.
You now start from 10,
so I started from 15. So you can imagine, I have to look for an extra 10. And I'm already struggling from the village.
The car is here.
Yeah? And the car is there. I think at that point when I was coming to Nairobi, I had sold the car.
And still you could not pay the debts?
No. I had sold the car. I had also committed another blunder. I bought another house prematurely without considering what I needed to consider. That also burnt my fingers. A story for another day. And so one day, as I'm in Nairobi, a G4S guy walks into my office. He's carrying a nicely packaged gift pack. And he tells me it's mine. So I unwrap it. I find a thank you card coming from one of my Shylocks, thanking me for being the most trustworthy borrower and for continued business. I was supposed to smile and be happy for the recognition, but the packaging was still heavy. So I opened further, and that's when I saw the nice trophy that I had been given. So I took out the trophy, I released the G4S guy, but that was the day my eyes opened. By that time, I had messed myself silly in the world of financial struggles.
You were called all kinds of names.
Yes. I looked at this trophy. Tears almost rolled down my eyes. And I was telling myself, you mean I'm being recognized? Not for anything else, but for borrowing. Not even from the banks, but from this other world. And so I placed the trophy on the table, and I told myself, may this be a reminder of the journey ahead of me. I will do everything humanly possible to regain control of my financial story. And that was the day that my journey for recovery started. So I usually cherish that trophy because instead of being happy, it opened my eyes. So that's when I started consciously wanting to learn more about money, reading about money. That's how I learned about Robert Kiyosaki of Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I read that book. It changed the way I viewed money. And I remember writing to him, asking whether he had any book on debt. Unfortunately, he didn't have a book. He had written some articles, so they sent me the articles. I read. I picked a few tips here and there. Then I continued just trying a few things here and there. Some worked, some didn't work on my journey to recovery. Interestingly, the time I'm receiving this trophy, I have discovered my speaking calling. So that time, I'm a contemporary motivational speaker. I'm not talking about money. The usual things of just giving people hope and just life skills things. But then, the world around me starts associating me with money. And I'm getting invitations to speak about money, and especially debt. And I'm wondering, and I would still go and I would still perform. And even while still serving at the bank, many times I had conflicting encounters. There are many times I have, because I've worked in the credit section almost all my life in the bank, different parts of the credit section. And many times a borrower has come to borrow money, and I can see this one is messing themselves up. Many times I've taken a borrower aside and told them, hey, are you sure you need this loan? And you see, the bank does not expect me to
do that. Yes.
And that's when I started getting conflicted between my calling to help instill financial prudence and what the bank would expect from me. There's a time I have served as, because I've encountered credit from all angles. I've sold debt, so I know how lenders package debt for it to be appealing. I've been the banker, so I've received pay slips, calculated, processed for people. Then I've been the credit administrator, so I've taken care of loan books. Then I've been a debt collector. Okay, so I've now gone out.
Those people who don't smile.
Yes.
They come there when the face is looking like something else.
And during the time I was a debt collector, that's when I encountered the impact of financial problems on the family unit. That's how sometimes you also find me very passionate about the family unit. I train a lot of families. I journey with many couples one-on-one because of the things I saw when I was doing that job.
You were collecting the debt.
Yes. I've entered a family, and that's the first time the wife is learning that the husband
has been borrowing,
and we are actually chasing him for money. And the wife wants to collapse because she does not imagine that the man owes the bank the amount of money we are looking for. It's not just a problem of men. I've gone to houses where that's the first time the husband is discovering that the wife has been borrowing and even using household items as security without his knowledge. I went to one such house and the husband told me, this marriage is ending now. And that's again when I started feeling the conflict again. Many of those times I would tell my colleagues to wait for me outside and I would find myself sitting these two people down because something in me tells me I shouldn't just leave. I've come to collect the television set, yes, but something is telling me I can't just leave this marriage breaking because I've come to collect. And I would find myself wanting to sit down with them, just having a conversation to see if I can help in a way. And then I've also journeyed with SMEs. That's how you will also find me training business people in these matters. Now, so that's how I got the trophy.
Wow.
That's how I started my journey of recovery. But it was not a very interesting journey. I wouldn't wish that journey on anyone.
On anyone?
Yes.
Now, Mr. Okonji, straight to the point. Help someone there that is trapped in debt and cannot make any progress because any coin dropping is dropping in an ocean of debt.
Yes.
And the person has been, I mean, it's a web of debt and they cannot come out. Even if they give all that they have, they can't still settle the money. And some people are even going to depression and that.
Yes, yes, yes.
How did you help yourself or how would you help someone to come out?
Wow, wow. That's a big question. It's a question I receive every place I've gone to train. Even where I've gone to train on other money issues, someone will ask, how do I break free from the trap of debt?
Yes.
And I quite understand the impact and the negative effects of the trap of debt are dire. Usually, I'm invited to train about how to break free. I have always asked my clients, before I go to that point, allow me to tell you how dangerous the trap of debt is. For someone who is not yet trapped, to avoid. So that when they interact with debt, they can go for good debt and use debt for development and not for things that will lead them into trouble. The trap of debt can reduce you into a shell of a human being.
A shell.
It will collapse every aspect of your life. When I teach about what I call work-life choices, what people call work-life balance, I divide life into 4 parts. Your health, your relationships or your social life, your career life, and your financial life. The trap of debt will paralyze those 4 areas. So health-wise, people get affected. Every aspect of health, physical health, emotional health, mental health, spiritual health. When you're trapped in debt, even your spirituality is at risk. Now, relationship-wise, when you're trapped in debt, you can't even concentrate on a relationship. You start avoiding even going to where your friends are. You start stopping meeting people. What if a bill comes for a cup of tea and I don't have money to pay? So you start isolating. And isolation leads to termination. People must remember. If you talk to people who've gotten suicidal, because I have met very many suicidal cases because of the debt clinic that I ran, the one-on-one coaching, many of them will tell you those thoughts come when they are isolated. When you are alone, that's when you start entertaining such thoughts. So that's how it affects your social life. I know people who used to be close friends. Today they don't see eye to eye because one gave the other money, the other was not able to pay, and so they stopped being friends. Marriage, which is the epitome of relationships, has been affected. I've just shared a few examples during my collection experience. Your career will not be spared. You see, when you're trapped in debt, you become absent-minded.
It is true.
You lose your mind. You can't concentrate at the workplace. Many were the days when my laptop would be open, my colleagues think I'm working, but the screen is blank because my mind has traveled. Maybe I got into the office and a phone call came of someone I promised money. And for my case, there were very many phone calls. Like you mentioned, owing 86 lenders is not easy. Those are 86 pressure points. My Mondays used to be hell on earth days. It's like those guys belong to a WhatsApp group. They discuss on Sunday how they will raid me on Monday. So you can imagine you start your day and those are the phone calls coming. You will lose it. So many times I'll just stare on a blank screen and I'm lost. So I understand when people feel what they feel and what they go through.
Yes.
Then, lastly, your financial life will also lose meaning. When you're trapped in debt, everything finances loses meaning. People will train you how to save, how to invest, but you can't see sense. You are wondering, do people still save in this day and age? Because it doesn't make sense to you. So that's how bad the trap can get. And I'm just brushing through quickly because I needed to create this picture. For someone who is not there, not to fear debt. You know, I teach about debt both ends. But for them to be cautious and careful of the kind of debts they are getting in, the reasons for which they are getting into debt, so that they can avoid getting trapped. So back to your question. How then do you begin to come out? I came up with a model, and I've taught this model. I usually train it in the corporate space. I call it the ADSA four-stage approach. ADSA four-stage approach. To debt management. It looks like a divine model in the manner that it came to my mind. But it just came one day, and that's how it came. The first A is acceptance. That's the starting point. You cannot solve a problem whose existence you still deny. So for as long as you're still in denial, you will not break free from the trap of debt. How do you know you're in denial? For as long as you still continue to borrow, to create an impression that you're doing well, you're still in denial. For as long as you still blame others for where you are today financially, you're still in denial. For as long as you're trying to sweep things under the carpet, you're still in denial. So in the acceptance stage, you're speaking to your mind. The journey of recovering from the trap of debt begins in the mind before the pocket. We don't start coming out of the trap of debt by looking for money. You can't come out of the trap of debt with the same mindset that took you there. You can't come out of the trap of debt with the same mindset that took you there. That is why you will meet people making vows and saying, if I can clear my current debt, I will never get back to this place. And God knows how to answer their prayers. They usually get money and clear. But 6 months down the line, they are back. If not worse. Because they didn't solve it here. The mindset is still the same. So acceptance prepares your mind for a journey of recovery. So what do you do at acceptance? You accept that you are responsible for where you are. You must take responsibility. If you find it difficult to take responsibility, you're still in denial. So for as long as you still say, were it not for so and so, I wouldn't be here, you're still in denial. You must accept that it is possible for you to break free. It is doable. And please take it from me. It is possible to break free. Some of us would never have an opportunity or moral authority to stand before people and talk about these things. But here we are.
Sometimes you speak and you're seeing someone in the audience.
Yes. Many times during my my first instances, when I was still now actively going through the process, I'll be called to an audience and I've just been ushered on the stage. And in the audience, I can see a person or two that I owe money. And if you're not careful, you can lose it.
And you have come, and you have come to help me to come out of that. And these people are there listening.
You exist in our public speaking world. You understand the importance of connecting with your audience. So you can imagine if there is such a sensitive thing, like someone in the audience.
You know what's happening. In fact, that one actually brings me to the point where there are certain things that when you're engaged in, then it forces you to choose your topics. Someone who likes sleeping around cannot go talk about fornication. You go talking about, in fact, not even, there's a gentleman who made a very powerful confession. I can't mention his name because everyone knows him. But he made a certain confession in a very powerful gathering where there are thousands of people. How he was left, right, center, sleeping with and the wife was there. The wife was hearing this for the very first time.
Can you imagine?
And the parents, I mean, their parents cried and everything else. And he was saying that in most audiences he would go to speak, you would see. So go ahead.
So that becomes a very disturbing thing. But I thank God for the grace He gave me and the moral authority I grabbed moral authority.
You grabbed it.
Yes, one thing I discovered is once I saw the light and I started learning new things about money, I told myself, I'm not going to wait until I break free entirely. Now I know the right thing. I'll continue sharing this right thing. And I told God, give me the energy. I may not have moral authority like the world would want, but I will also not wait, because I can feel the weight in my spirit that I need to really start working on these things. Anyway, so we were talking about acceptance.
You've named the first A is acceptance. Yes.
You must accept that it is doable.
It is doable.
You must accept that you are the best person to bring that change.
Exactly.
You must accept that it will not be overnight.
Yes.
It will be a process.
It's a process.
It's a process.
Yes.
You didn't get trapped overnight. So you will not also walk out overnight.
It's a process.
It's a process. You must accept that the best time to start that journey is now. Very important. So there are things now you are speaking to your mind.
Yes.
You're convincing yourself.
Yes.
So that's the first A.
Yes.
Then you go to D. D is what I call disclosure. Then at disclosure I say, you cannot effectively climb out of a hole whose depth you have not appreciated. If you find yourself in a hole,
Yes.
before you start fighting to go up, you have to take a moment to look up. You see where there is a light for you to figure out how deep am I.
Yes.
Right? So you can't also break free from the trap of debt if you don't know who you owe money. So in this stage is where I give people homework, and I'm actually giving them now. Go home and do a list of everyone you owe money.
Exactly.
Okay?
I think tell them in that camera. Yes.
Go home and do a list of everyone you owe money.
Yes.
And that list will begin to speak to you. What I discovered is that the average human mind is not comfortable doing the list of the people we owe money.
Yes.
We can do lists of how we will spend money,
Yes.
how we will invest, our income sources, but we avoid doing lists of who we owe money.
Yes.
That should be your starting point.
Exactly.
Go home and do a list of the people you owe money.
Yes.
Once you do that list, many times it will shock you.
Yes.
And please allow that list to be very conclusive. Do that list including everyone up to and including airtime advance. That's part of your debt.
Yes.
And every bill that is overdue. Bills are not debt.
Yes.
But when they become overdue,
Yes.
they become debt.
They become dead.
Okay?
Yes.
So if you're supposed to pay rent by 5th,
Yes.
if you have rent by 6th, then it's part of debt. Now you have empowered your landlord to chase after you.
Yes.
So that is the D.
Yes.
Do that list.
Exactly.
That list gives you reality.
Yes.
This is where you are financially.
Yes.
You can't run away from it. It's your list.
Yes.
The day I did disclosure is when I discovered I was owing 86 lenders.
Hey.
Okay? And the reason I'm sharing this story is because I've seen the power of the story in giving hope. That one day you can also tell your story. It doesn't matter where you are today. What matters is where you can be tomorrow. So that is D. Then we move to S.
Yes.
S is now the strategic stage. So what after you have seen
You have seen that now. This is now
the list.
The list.
Now, many people, when they ask about how to break free, they want you to jump into the S. But yes, they want the strategies.
Yes.
But you realize the first two are very important, because if your mind is not ready, even if I gave you a host of strategies, it will not help you. Now, when you get to the strategic stage, we don't have a one-size-fit-all kind of approach. What works for you may not work for me, because people are surrounded by different financial and life realities.
Yes.
So this is where it gets personal. And when I launched the debt clinic 5 years ago, was to plug in at this point where we can now get personal, and I can be able to prescribe what would work for you and probably may not work for another person.
Exactly.
So we cannot say now at this stage, press this, and all of us will be out of debt. It will not work that way. But for purposes of conversation, allow me to just share a couple of strategies.
Go ahead, sir.
The first thing you need to do is to reach out to your lenders. The average mind wants to run away from lenders when you're trapped in debt.
Exactly.
They want to call you, you don't want to pick, you don't want to call them, you don't want to talk to them. But the psychology of lending is such that every lender feels good when they know that you have their interests at heart. The best way to demonstrate that is by you reaching out and talking out your issues. It might be humiliating, but it's part of the journey. When I was fighting my own battle back in the day, I went through this process. I got to a point where I had to lay it bare. I unmasked. I had to reach out to my guys and explain to them.
I'm trying to imagine reaching out to six people.
Things are not easy. I may not be able to continue paying interest the way I've been paying. And that takes me to the second strategy. As you reach out to your lenders to explain why things have taken the direction they've taken, you can also renegotiate the terms of the debt, depending on who you borrowed from. I've guided people into negotiating even with banks, Shylocks and what have you. Because sometimes you used to pay 10,000 per month.
Yes.
Now, maybe you can only pay 4,000. Don't run away. Reach out and speak out.
And
Try to
speak out.
renegotiate. But before you renegotiate, be sure what you want to achieve out of the negotiation. Don't call your lender and you don't know what you want to achieve. The lender will pull in the direction. You should also have a direction.
Yes.
So you can renegotiate the repayment amount. You can renegotiate the repayment cycle. Maybe you are paying weekly. Now your status cannot allow you to pay weekly. Maybe you can only pay monthly. Renegotiate the cycle. You can renegotiate the term. Okay? Maybe for it to be stretched. You can renegotiate, or rather you can ask for some amnesty, some period as you try to fix things out. Okay? So you can ask them to just give you some 2 months, some 3 months for you to be able to figure things out. Right, so another thing you can do is to think about consolidating your debts. This is where you owe a number of people like I was owing.
Yes.
But you can find a cheaper source to give you a certain amount that you can use to pay off a number of these others. For example, I owe you 5K, another guy 10K, another guy 3K, another, in total 30,000.
Yes.
If I can get one person to give me 30,000,
Yes.
for me to come and clear the 5 of you, I'll have reduced 5 pressure points.
Yes, yes. It's a matter of reducing pressure points.
Yes, you know, in debt management, my approach, largely I look at 2 things. One is pressure,
Yes.
and then 2 is the cost.
Exactly.
So when I sit with you one-on-one, I want to understand who is giving you the highest pressure, because you need to be sober to carry on the journey of breaking free. Number 2, who is stealing the most from you, or who is taking the most, because whoever gave you money is not a thief. He went there willingly.
Yes.
But in terms of interest, who is taking the highest from you? We want to do away with that person very quickly so that we can direct that money elsewhere. So those are 2 things we look at. Now some people come when they have almost everyone giving them pressure and almost everyone being expensive. Maybe if they've borrowed from many Shylocks, for example. But those are the 2 things we look at. So consolidation will help. If you still can get a source that can give you some money that you can use to neutralize a number of those pressure points, good. That will work. The good thing with consolidation is that especially for people who are salaried, it can also help bring back some more money to your payslip. Because if you had a loan that you borrowed when it was 500, say you are repaying 15,000 per month, and then you have another loan you took 200, you are repaying 7,000 per month. Another loan you took 300, you are repaying 9,000 per month. Say in total you are repaying 35,000 per month, or being deducted 35,000 per month from different types of lenders.
Yes, yes.
You've paid for a while, so the balances have come down.
Yes.
So if you add the balance for the one that was 500, the one that was 200, the one that was 300, maybe today the total balance for those is 400.
Exactly.
So you go and take one loan of 400. The repayment for 400 will not be 35.
Exactly.
It will be probably 12,000 or something thereabout. So that releases the extra repayment back to your payslip, it can help you to reorganize yourself.
Yes.
As you battle the other debts that you have, or it can be channeled into your other debts so that they can clear quickly. So that's one thing you can also do.
Yes.
Another thing that I must mention, you also need to think about shaking your budget. Tell yourself, remind yourself where your money goes. What do you usually spend your money on? It is possible you're trapped in debt, but your spending habits could also be bad. Is it possible you can change a few things in your spending habits? Is it possible you're spending money on certain things that are not necessary? Or you're spending money on things that are necessary, but in volumes that are not necessary? Can you change a few things to release a few shillings back to your economy? Then another thing that I must mention, probably the last one for today, is income. Think about income. What else can you do to make another coin? What else can you do? Because you're already struggling where you are today, and maybe you only have one source of income. Is it possible you can make another coin? And it is possible that everyone can make another coin. Sometimes it's just that we refuse to look deeply into our abilities. But do you have talents you know that you can commercialize? Do you have interests? Do you have things you're passionate about? We might think about commercializing. I have, I like sharing these examples. There is a lady I met, and I said this same point I'm saying. The reason I said this was because since we met, in the course of our conversation, she kept saying, you know me, I love cooking. You know me, I love cooking. You know me, I love cooking. Hey, I want to go and cook. All those things. So she had said many times. And so at some point I told her, is it possible we can commercialize your love for cooking? I said, I have never thought about it that way, but what can I do to commercialize cooking? And COVID had just started. And we threw in a few thoughts here and there. Can you cook a few snacks, probably distribute in your neighborhood? You never know how it will go. As we speak, she has a restaurant.
Wow.
Yes, she has a restaurant.
She has a restaurant.
A restaurant.
Because she found someone who saw a gift in her. And,
and she had lost her job because of COVID realities. So she tried a few samosas and what have you here and there. And the next time we met after a month, she brought a very good report that she made some profit, and she thinks it's a very interesting thing. So after a while, we said, why not register a business? Why not start formalizing, go for those public health permits and what have you? And that became her story. Today, she usually tells me she's very happy that COVID came. She's one of the people who celebrate COVID because she got fired courtesy of COVID, and today she's in a good performing business.
That's great.
That's just one example. So there are many things we can commercialize. Do you have interest in writing? Can you write? Let's read your books. You can sell them to us. You can write articles. You can sell them. By the way, I have sold articles before. So someone might wonder whether it's possible to sell articles. I used to write articles I used to call Focus Talk. Initially, I used to give them for free every Monday. When I quit employment, as I was beginning to build my business, part of the things I commercialized initially were those articles, because I had created a following. For a whole year, I had done 52 articles free of charge. So the year that followed, I came up with an idea. What if I just charge something small? And I was selling an article at 50 bob. And the people who've been following me religiously every Monday, they still wanted more. But now I told them a few changes will happen. So I introduced subscriptions. Okay, so if you subscribe for the whole year, this is what you pay. But if you want to pay per Monday, per article, it is 50 bob. And people subscribed. Okay, and that took care of Skuma Wiki here and there. So think for another income. The job that you do, is it a job you can do elsewhere during your spare time? If you work Monday to Friday, what do you do on Saturday? Do you just sleep? Is it possible you can look for someone else to buy the same skills during your spare time? Is it possible you can consult and charge some money? You have a talent of drawing. I also met another friend of mine who is a police officer. And I realized he was passionate about drawing. And at some point I told him, why don't you just start drawing and take those portraits. Just draw these prominent people and take those portraits to them. You never know. And he tried. And one day he sold a portrait at some handsome amount. And that's how he crystallized that thing. So when he is free, he does his drawings, and then they go to be sold in displays and those things. So there is more to making money. Sometimes we overthink when we are talking about making money. The solutions are usually close here.
They are close here.
Close here. It's just that I think we've gone to school so much. When we think about making another shilling, we overthink. We are thinking about serious ways of making money. I have shared in my trainings of a person I know who started hiring out wheelbarrows. You see, we are thinking about businesses that require huge capital. This guy started hiring out wheelbarrows because of a need that emerged where he used to live. People were constructing, and he realized there was a problem, a challenge. So he bought a few wheelbarrows, started giving them out at 50 shillings. When I was sitting down to listen to that story, I need to find out whether he still does that. But he had now gone into high-end hiring of construction equipment from wheelbarrows. He had about 200 wheelbarrows. And that time he was telling me he can't even meet the demand in the construction sites. Wheelbarrows. So you can imagine 50 shillings times 200. That's about 10,000 per day. And he told me rarely do his wheelbarrows sleep at home. We overthink sometimes. And that time we were talking, a wheelbarrow was costing 1,500 shillings. Yet you are here drawing business plans and then complaining how you don't have capital. So we need to think and also learn how we can make another coin. That will help you. So the last A, you said it was ADSA.
Yes.
So we've done A for acceptance, D for disclosure, S for strategies.
Yes.
I've shared many strategies in my book, Breaking Free. We'll talk about it. So the last A is action. Action. You know, you can talk, you can come up with plans, you can have a very wonderful plan of breaking free from the trap of debt. But as long as you are not going to roll your sleeves and get your hands soiled, nothing is going to happen.
About it, yes.
So the end of that process is action. I must remind you that this is going to be work. It's not going to be overnight. I have shared that it took me 3 years, 3 solid years to regain control. Not to clear my debts, to regain control. Control means now I can walk in the streets of Nairobi with my head up high because I'm not afraid I'll meet you and I owe you money and you start talking about money because we are now on the same page with those who I was still owing. So I'm not afraid. We can meet and talk about football and politics without me fearing that you will pop the question of money. That's what I call control. And the reason why I started the debt clinic is to help people regain control. Even though we have a few who say, stay with me until I'm at zero. But really, I just want to see people regain control, regain sanity. So you must take action. It is work. I used to diarize. I used to write notes because otherwise I would have forgotten, confused stories. I agree with you this, and next time we meet, I tell you a different thing. So it is going to be work. If you have planned to reach out to renegotiate, let us see you making a phone call to your lenders, planning for an appointment, and going to renegotiate. If you have promised that you are doing something, you want to see if you can make income, let us see you make effort to make income. The good thing with making an extra coin, it helps you in 2 ways. One, it reduces chances of you backsliding into more borrowing. Things that you would have borrowed for, you can now pay for them in cash. Secondly, it speeds up the process. If you had income of 20,000 and you have this number of debts, if that income gets to 25, you will clear them faster than if you only had 20. And in a nutshell, that is the ADSA 4-stage approach I've just brushed through.
Thank you so much, my brother.
Thank you.
You have 7 books here.
Yes, by the grace of God.
Mention titles of each and how people can get them, because I know people would want them.
The first book I wrote
is
this one.
All right.
Relate Well, Live Well.
Yes.
It's a book about the importance of relating well with people.
That is the human capital.
Yes.
Yes.
Every successful person
Yes.
knows how to deal with people
Yes.
in their sphere of success.
Yes.
So this book talks about the importance of relating well with people at a family level, at an employment level, at a business level,
Yes.
and at the social level.
Great.
All right? So that was my first book. Then I wrote about this monster.
That is
Confronting fear.
the enemy within.
Yes. The monster that reminds you that you are not fit. It holds you back every time you want to move forward. This thing has crippled very many people. It's a big killer of dreams. So in this book, I've just shared about how the environment can put fear in people, how parents put fear in their children without knowing, and then I've shared how you can combat your fears when they come, especially the fear of failure, the fear of the unknown, and the fear of rejection. Right? So that is confronting fear. Then the third book I wrote is this one here.
Yes, you can do better.
You can do better. I usually call this the manual of life. You can do better. This is the only promise I have for human beings.
Exactly.
I strongly believe that you can do better. It's my slogan in life. In all my speaking engagements, my trainings, my finishing statement.
You can do better.
You can do better. It's the only thing I believe.
Exactly.
That your tomorrow has the right and chance to look better than your today and yesterday combined.
Exactly.
All right? So that is what this book is there to do, to encourage you to embrace a life of growth. Then the fourth book I wrote is this one.
That is, debt is good only if you master
it. Many people read the bigger part, debt is good, and they go into borrowing and they say, Coach said, debt is good.
It is not.
The day you burn, your fingers will not be there. Only if you master it. Master it in two ways. One, understand how it works before you swim into it. And two, become its master. Let it be your servant.
Exactly.
Send it to work for you.
Very true.
So that is the fourth book I wrote. The fifth book, which resonates with our conversation for today,
Breaking Free from the Trap of Debt.
Yes. This book has two parts. The first part helps you understand how the trap of debt looks like. Because I've lived in that prison long enough. I know how the corners look like. Then I've also talked about addiction to borrowing. It's a new secondary addiction in society today. And the second part talks about the process itself. I've given enough strategies on how to break free, how to gauge whether you are trapped. I've given signs on how you can gauge whether you are trapped.
Yes.
The sixth book is this one here.
Managing
My Money.
Yes.
Managing My Money is where financial management conversations need to start from. This book begins to talk about your mind. It begins to align your mind towards money. So there are things I call realities of money, which are aimed at shaping how you think about money. So that's the starting point. It talks to you about wealth creation, talks to you about practical budgeting, practical saving, talks to you about how to make another coin. I've shared about 7 different types of incomes and how you can tell which one can work for you. And then lastly is the latest kid on the block.
Yes.
Staying financially afloat. This one I wrote because of what people are going through today. Many people are feeling that their income is strained because of high cost of living. And so in this book, I have shared tips on how to make your money do more for you than it is currently doing.
Exactly.
How do you avoid wastefulness? How do you become creative to save a shilling here and channel it here so that you can feel your money doing a little more than it has been doing? Now, largely we distribute this through orders and deliveries. So I will give you the number that they can use.
Yes, you can give them.
0713 49 7172.
Yes.
0713 49 7172. Just text or WhatsApp.
Yes.
Just say you want the book. We will respond with the full catalog and the prices of each, and then we arrange on how you get your books. It's as simple as that.
Exactly.
Of course, those who have any other inquiries, they just use that number, and then we will pick it up from there. Yes.
Wow, that's great, my brother.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I think next time when we have another episode, we'll talk about this book, how to stay afloat financially, because many people are going through that.
The pleasure will be mine.
Ladies and gentlemen, it was a pleasure having you. Thank you so much for your attention. And today we decided to stage war against debt. And my brother has done justice to that topic, and I believe you are blessed. Please remember to subscribe, and also get to my website, that is www.kellyinspiration.com, where you interact with some of my content, my books, and the rest. Thank you so much for your support. Until next time.